I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joe, who do you have with you tonight?
This is my grandson, Liam, and he's going to be riding in the parade with me this year.
Well, William, what do you have to say tonight?
Say hello.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, William. Let's have a hand for William. Good job, William.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I wish we'd called this first and I could have let them deal with the citizens. I'm sure they would have done a much better job than I did.
No, I think they found it very interesting, so I'm sure they'll have a lot to talk about when they get back to school tomorrow. I'm here tonight to, well, again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Morgan Rogers with the Roswell Recreation, Parks, Historical, and Cultural Affairs Department. I'm here tonight to remind you that our 64th annual Francis McGahee Youth Day Parade is coming up on Saturday, October the 11th. And all of y'all are invited to come and watch the parade because we know that this is a tradition in Roswell, our longest tradition of 64 years, where kids parade down the road and wave to their parents. Adults are not allowed in the parade unless they're accompanied by children. So knowing that y'all want to be in the parade real bad and not just watch it, we took the liberty of having some youth officials come tonight that will represent you at the Youth Day Parade and then, of course, invite you to come to the parade as well. But in order to really make them youth officials, we want to bring them up to the diocese and let them sit there, and they actually will read the proclamation and have some information. So I'm going to call the youth officials forward, and then they will take your places, and then we will go from there. We're going to start with our youth mayor, who is from Roswell High School, Joy Tomasi. Representing Kent Eigelhart, we have from Fellowship, Declan Reed. Oh, come on up. Go on up.
Come on.
They'll get up. They will get up when you get up there. Okay. Representing Nancy Diamond from Fellowship, we have Susanna Martinez. Representing Jerry Orleans from Blessed Trinity, we have Zachary Lydia. Representing Becky Wynn from Blessed Trinity, we have Everett Finn. Representing Betty Price from Centennial High School, we have Ellie Cash. Representing Rich DiPolito from Centennial High School, we have John Douglas. Representing our police chief, Rusty Grant, from Blessed Trinity, we have Jada Hastings. And Chief, if you'll form a line up there, and your youth official, Jada, will come stand with you. Representing Deborah Ewing with the Roswell Recreation Commission, from Roswell High School, we have Sam Jessen. And we have Jay Small standing in for Deborah Ewing tonight. Representing Fire Chief Ricky Burdett, from Centennial High School, we have Sohail Shamsunder. Representing Senator John Albers tonight, from the Cottage School, we have Alex Lee. And representing State Representative Harry Geisinger, who could not be with us tonight, from Cottage School, we have Zach Kitzer, I'm sorry. Is that everybody? Nope. Who am I missing? Oh, and representing K Love, oh my. Representing K Love, we have from Roswell High School, Maria Robinson. And Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate now, I would like to turn the this part of the meeting over to the youth officials who have a short program.
Yes, sir. It's your program. Don't ask me what's on the
All right, we're going to talk about the Roswell 64th Annual Youth Day celebration. Whereas the youth of Roswell represent the future of our great city, and whereas the youth of Roswell are an important part of the community, and whereas the city of Roswell for the past 64 years has celebrated its youth with a citywide parade and festival, and whereas the theme for the 64th Annual Youth Day celebration is Play It Forward. Now, therefore, I, Joey Tomasi, Youth Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 11th, 2014, as Youth Day in the City of Roswell, and I call upon all our citizens, young and old, to help us celebrate and promote this most honored day in our community.
Great job.
Now I'm going to call on Miss Betty Price for a special announcement regarding Youth Day.
Thank you, Joey. I would like to move this to Sam.
Oh, there he is.
All right. This year's Grand Marshal has 43 years of full-time professional recreation experience, with 36 of those years with the Roswell Recreation Parks and Historic and Cultural Affairs Department. For the past 22 years, he has served as the director of the department. A few of the department's accomplishments under his leadership are over 600 acres of parkland were acquired, oversaw the development of 30 miles of trails in Roswell, and gained control of 7 miles of riverfront property for the Roswell Riverwalk, and has been a national gold medal finalist for excellence in recreation and parks for the past 4 years in a row. This year, we have appointed Joe Glover as the Grand Marshal of the 64th Youth Day Parade.
And Mr. Mayor, I think it would be appropriate for our Grand Marshal to introduce his Youth Day official. He brought his own with him.
Joe, please come to the microphone.
Thank you, Morgan. I have with me tonight my grandson, Liam, who's going to be representing the Grand Marshal as a youth representative. And also, we brought his mother, Annie, his father, Kevin, and his grandmother, Mary.
Welcome here.
That would conclude the official business, but I'm assuming that the Mayor and Council would want their picture made with the youth
Let's
officials.
see if we can get them to approve the consent agenda. I always like to do that. Ask if there's a motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I
Second the motion.
Next, you ask if there's any further discussion.
Is there any further discussion?
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
You have to say that.
Oh, does anyone in the audience have any questions about the consent agenda?
Saying no, hands up. I'll take a vote.
No hands up.
All right. All in favor of the motion, raise their hand.
All in favor of the motion, raise their hand.
Then you, for the record, what was the vote?
No, we were passed unanimously.
There we go. Good job, first vote was unanimous. Good job. All right, time for photos. That's what we did.
job, Morgan.
Well, I did. I saw this list. I saw this list like 20 minutes before I got up. We can switch around. We'll get it right. You go right. Yeah, absolutely. Just like a bomb. They're not. Y'all not through?
Motion by Councilman Orland, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn, all in favor. Anyone have any questions
No, that was
regarding the
not- that was
consent
not
agenda,
official.
which is the approval of the minutes? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Wynn, liaison to Community Development Department, we'll call upon her.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We only have one item as approval of a land use license for 14 Elizabeth Way, and Miss Alice Wakefield will be presenting tonight. Miss Wakefield. Yes, sir. It's the Fix Pizzeria.
Which is open, but this is a permit to operate on this.
Well, there's some semantics that we're going to make sure that we get into, some things that we're going to make very clear what needs to be done.
Okay, yes, as was mentioned, this is a request to fix a license for land use for Real Fix Pizzeria for the rear of 14 Elizabeth Way. You may recall that this matter was before you a couple of months ago, and it was deferred pending the approval of the East-West Master Plan. Given that the East-West Master Plan has been delayed, we're here before you asking you for your consideration of this request. We have several conditions of this request. If I can get this, I'm going to briefly go through them. The first condition is that all of the improvements should be in accordance with the drawing that's attached, known as Exhibit A. That the adjoining patio, 16 Elizabeth Way, cannot be used. It is not part of this request. That the changes based upon the East-West Alley Master Plan may be implemented once it's approved without any additional cost to the city of Roswell. In other words, that the the applicant, Real Fix Pizzeria, may have to make those changes at his cost. That the barriers and the furniture shall match all the specifications for sidewalk cafes. That at all time, Real Fix Pizzeria shall adhere to the Americans with Disabilities Act, which include the two chains the barrier to show that there is the clear passageway, and that engineering drawings are required to be submitted for the construction and for the appropriate inspection. We know that Real Fix Pizzeria has already installed those improvements, but those improvements have not been reviewed by a staff, and that the outdoor dining area will meet the standards of the UDC. I'll show you here, this is this shows the depiction of where the applicant is asking to place the seating on the patio. And I know that the applicant is very anxious to get this moved forward. Tomorrow is Tuesday. That's when we have our pre-applications meeting and our DRPT meetings. And if the applicant would like, we can squeeze them in for an appointment to discuss this proposal with staff to make sure that what's out there adheres to the city regulations, and if not, what necessary changes need to be made.
Yes, regarding item E, where it says including 2 chains between each set of columns, is the column same as a post?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir, I do have a motion to approve this temporary land use with the conditions A through H that was presented by Ms. Alice Wakefield, and to stress, more than I can stress, you know, this is just giving permission to the applicant to move forward to get their permitting, inspections, and/or reviews. It does not give them the right to use anything until city staff signs off on it. I'm talking about the back end, and it does not include 16 Elizabeth Way. Other than that, that's my motion, is to move forward with conditions A through H as presented by Ms. Wakefield.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orr.
Yeah, one more question regarding item E. Outside those posts, and maybe we could change the wording to say post, I don't know if that's critical or not, but is there a drop-off between the patio and the ground level on the outside of those posts?
There is a slight drop-off, but if memory serves me right, there is a, I'll show it to you right here. There is a slope where anyone within a wheelchair can easily access, and right here.
Any other questions?
Okay, so that's, wait, I'm a little bit confused. I guess this has happened in the last few days, because this is not what it looked like last time I looked at it. So the posts are at the edge of the property?
The posts are at the edge. This one is a little bit different because this isn't a sidewalk, so that's the reason that we're calling a license for land use. But the patio has to be accessible for individual with disabilities.
Okay, so the picture really is not exactly what it's going to look like.
It will be very close. We can.
Mayor, can you turn on your mic?
The question was, does this photograph accurately depict what it's going to look like in use, other than it's going to have some chains and the scooter's going to be moved?
Correct. It will just have the 2 chains, as y'all requested, similar to the Zest pad. Oh, wait, no. I mean, in the future, I thought that's what y'all.
Yes, similar to the Zest.
Wait, she's saying no.
No, I didn't mean photograph, I meant the
The photograph is
diagram.
accurate, currently accurate.
What is your question, Councilmember Price?
The diagram doesn't look like the photograph, because the posts are at the very edge. So I guess how does a wheelchair get between tables?
Oh, because it'll be a direct path out from the door to that, for the wheelchair ramp. Will be a directly open path, and the tables will be on either side of that path.
Okay, so the purpose of the posts is really what?
This is a very.
It's the enclosure
Yeah, I'll put this
required by
drawing
state
up.
law.
We have a scaled drawing here.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the
That's a scale
ADA,
drawing,
really?
Councilmember
Correct. It's
Okay.
state law.
Okay, well, item E. It- So the chains aren't for to comply with ADA, the chains are to comply with the liquor license, is that?
Councilmember Wynn.
Maybe I can clarify. The chains are part of the state law, but it's also part of the ADA because the chains cannot impede into the 5 foot that's required. So what they're saying is that the chains also have to be part of the requirement of the minimum 5 foot width for any wheelchairs.
So where's
That's the reason that's in there.
That would be the entrance, the gap. as you
Exactly.
go in.
They cannot go 4.5 feet or 3 feet. It has to be a minimum of 5 feet between the post and the chains to allow ADA access.
And the second chain is so if you're walking with a cane, you'll bump into the lower chain
Okay.
and know it's there. Whereas if you didn't have the lower chain, the person with the cane might run into the chain. So
upper
that's
chain, okay.
also ADA.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there's an ADA component. It's not required by ADA, but if you put up chains, it has to comply with ADA.
We'll make sure it complies and that it's approved before it's used.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, the first item tonight is asking council to approve a property rights exchange at 11050 Crabapple Road. The property owners had signs previous or before a water line project went through there. When they went to put them back up, the location that they wanted was within the city of Roswell right-of-way. In order to comply with our sign code and not have an off-premise sign, the city is proposing that we exchange property rights, giving the owners the fee simple right to the property, and we retain a permanent easement over that so that we can use it for any public need in the future.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion? Yes, Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to confirm that the location of the right-of-way on either side of this property is consistent with the, I guess, more narrow, or the portion of this strip closest to the street. So in other words, is the right-of-way consistent along Crabapple Road, or does it get narrower at this location?
Mr. Asenbrack would have to answer that. I have no idea.
It's funny. It's not uniform. It's kind of a bulge right there, and I'm not sure why. I mean, that's...
So by allowing the property owner to use this, would the right-of-way then be consistent? So it's just, we have extra wide right-of-way at this location?
We have extra wide right-of-way right there, right.
At this one location?
Right.
And that, my concern was I didn't want to be giving away right-of-way that we may need in the future, but if this inner line is consistent with our existing right-of-way line on either side, then
Yes, that is true. It is consistent for right there, but I mean, I don't know why.
We are retaining the legal right to use that property at
Right.
any time in the future for any need the city may have. That's what the permanent
This was a
easement is for.
decent compromise, I think.
So if we needed to
We want to do an
widen
intersection improvement at some point in the
that for some
future.
reason,
A
yeah.
public purpose, yes, sir. It could be a trail, it could be an intersection improvement. We would retain those rights. That's the way legal structured this for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Motion to approve the
Motion to approve the land exchange.
exchange. Is there, by Councilmember Wynn, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item, Mayor, is approval of a resolution
Not
authorizing.
this, we can't do this, you know. This is, can't we get one more delay?
If you want.
And there's nobody here but the press.
Authorizing the mayor, city administrator to sign all necessary documents for an exchange of city property for property of equal or less value according to certified appraisals for Fire Station Number 4, to accept such appraisals and to abandon certain described property while maintaining a permanent right-of-way easement.
Just so the press gets it, this opens the way to move the Fire Station Number 4 to a new location. Tear down the old fire station, something that we have been after for how many years now?
Well, there were some people that tried for several years, but I've only been after it
But
for about 8
Councilman Orland
months.
brought it home. We had several other council members tried and failed, but Councilman Orland's brought it home.
Mr. Mayor,
Move for
I'd like to have a
approval.
motion for deferral on this item and take it back to next month.
Move for approval.
Do we have a, did we get a motion?
I
A
just
motion
moved
for
for approval.
No, we're not hearing it. We're not considering it. Out of order.
I said I moved for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember DiPolito has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last time we saw this contract, there was discussion about the easement, the access easement coming in off of Sloan Street, and I can't tell from the documentation we have if that was, how that was handled.
It's preserved.
What does that mean?
It means it still exists and it will be available to the public. That they've agreed to the terms that the city has insisted upon all along.
Well, I guess I'm still unclear. Their attorney had come back with changes to the document and had requested the document be revised. Did we revise it or did we leave it?
My understanding is that Mr. Davidson and Ms. Nasuti negotiated that, and that after consulting with Mr. Palladie, our outside attorney, that we reach mutually agreeable language which accomplishes the goals the city has.
So to be more specific to Mr. DiPolito, what is that question, the language that was agreed upon? Do you have it?
Number 14.
Yes, paragraph 14, seller hereby agrees to grant public access for vehicular and pedestrian purposes between Sloan Street and the current entrance to an alleyway, which entrance is shown on that certain ALTA/ACSM land title survey of Roswell Visitor Center for Kings Market LLC and Chicago Title Insurance Company prepared by GeoSurvey Limited dated July 29, 2014, last revised September 17, 2014, hereinafter the survey. The location of said alleyway is or was formerly as follows. And there follows a detailed legal description of it, and said relocation must be approved by the governing body of the city of Roswell, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld, conditioned, or denied.
Does that public access include the right for utilities? I think that was one of the questions.
Any purpose that the city needs it for, yes.
That's pretty broad.
Where does it say for any purpose the city needs it?
Well, that language encompasses that, and the purchaser would be us.
I don't see that. It says for vehicular and pedestrian purposes.
It says purchaser shall retain an easement over, across, and under that portion of property B described in Exhibit C attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, the easement area for the installation, maintenance, repair, and replacement of sidewalks, utility lines, and other improvements completed by purchaser now or hereafter located in the easement area.
I guess the point was, is we were talking, we're the seller, though. Does the seller maintain a right for,
My understanding is that it did.
we're just trying to find that language.
Doesn't read that way.
Well, you'll have to ask Mr. Davidson. I didn't draft it. I wasn't involved in that. I was
But I guess,
in the thing there.
given the concern, perhaps we need to, I hate to defer this. Can we approve it subject to that language being put in that we have the right to, for not just public access, but for utilities and other purposes? Can we have a conditional approval to approve it subject to that change so we can get this passed?
Sure,
What language would you suggest the motion contain?
what you just said. I would,
That's too easy.
if you look at the contract, I believe Councilwoman Diamond, Kings Market is the seller, Roswell is the purchaser.
But we're the purchaser.
So when you read number 15, it says we've got the right to put.
Why don't we be specific and amend it, say Roswell, because of the confusion between purchaser and seller, the city of Roswell, whatever, rather than change the, where it says purchaser, just go ahead and put the city of Roswell, because it is confusing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I'd suggest that rather than do this on the fly, since this is a very important piece, that we defer it. Not that I want to defer it.
I was joking.
I thought we had this resolved.
It is resolved. If you read 15, it is perfectly fine legal language that says we've got the right for utility installation.
I'm just saying.
I know, Mayor, but please let me finish. It says that we are the purchaser. It's consistent throughout the contract. You get to 15, purchaser shall retain an easement over, across, and under that portion of property B attached hereto and incorporated for the installation, maintenance, repair, and replacement of sidewalks, utility lines, and other improvements completed by purchaser and now or hereafter located in the easement area.
I agree with you, it's
clear.
It's clear.
So is Exhibit C that the property that we're talking about, or is it, I was under the impression that was Exhibit B? Because when you look up under paragraph 14, it talks about the alleyway entrance. It talks about maintenance of property B.
There are two different parts of the property. One is the access point, and then the other is the easement area. And the utilities are in the easement area described in Exhibit C, and I believe Exhibit B is a description of what has to be left open for access.
Do we have a drawing that describes what these various easement areas are?
No, that's why we have the legal description that's more precise than a drawing. There've been exact measurements taken from the surveys and included in the legal description.
But it's hard to understand what the parcels are by looking at a legal description.
Can
Can
we
you
sketch
take
out
a-
a quick
take a
description
legal
of the
description and
parcels, just so we
describe that
can
to
get
me?
a?
I can't.
Is anybody in transportation? Trying to get a sketch so you could, on the ground, see with the relationship between these different parcels, because it is, following a legal description is impossible without a plat. I'd say it's not, for me, it's impossible. and I read these things on a regular basis. I have to get my map out.
But the legal description's there, and the wording is there from our attorneys. I'm trying to understand what the issue is.
Well, I think it was trying to get the sketch helps you understand the legal descriptions. It was trying to help illustrate it.
I've always been told the contract, you've got to have a legal description, not a sketch.
That,
The sketch wouldn't work under the contract. Mr. DiPolito, what's your pleasure?
It is unclear to me that we have resolved the last issue that we had, so I still have concerns over it. And I totally support the concept. I just want to make sure the legal document is correct.
Can we approve it subject to a last shot review? Can we approve this with the condition that you sit down with legal tomorrow and confirm the locations? And if you have any reservations, we'll bring it back.
I have reservations about that. We need to bring it back.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Orleans.
I want to make a motion for approval. I think we've had two staff attorneys that have looked at it and agree with it. You understand it. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to try to criticize it. I think our attorneys have done it. They've met with their attorney, ironed out the way we wanted it, so I'm moving for approval tonight.
Well, my practice has always been if there is a motion to defer, we vote on the motion to defer before we vote on the motion to approval. So the first question is, do I have a motion to defer?
I move to defer.
We have a motion to defer. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. So now we have a motion by Councilmember Orleans for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. All in favor of that motion, please raise their hands. That's 5 in favor, all opposed. Councilmember DiPolito. Councilmember DiPolito, if you would please sit down with Mr. Halsey to review this at your earliest convenience. If you find there is an issue, I am certain we can pull it and straighten it out. And if nothing else, I won't sign the document until I get a confirmation.
I'd be more than happy to do that. Like I said, I support the concept.
I'm just trying to keep everybody happy.
Mr.
Mr. Halsey, can you sit down with Mr. DiPolito at his convenience?
Certainly, I'll have Mr. Davidson, who negotiated it, do that. It was better than me, but I'll be happy to.
Or somebody, and if they can get a plat to sort of show, to show these, then I think Mr. DiPolito will be happy, and we'll all be happy.
Thank you.
And it's always second guessing, it's not second guessing, it's double checking is in a serious decision is always, I have never had any objection to double checking things. All right, recommendation for closure to discuss personnel litigation and real estate. As much as I hate to do it, I'd like to ask for a motion. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're going to go to closure now. Thank you for coming. We have a new fire station. All it took was a new chief. That's what the real turnover was. Just a new chief, new fire station, off to a new start.